Hello. It's an honor and a privilege to be here with you. A few years ago, actually more than 10 years ago now, I wrote this book. I wrote a book arguing that Homo sapien, wise person, yeah, that's a pretty good name for our species. But in my humility, I suggested another name for our species. Maybe we should call ourselves Homo fictus, which means fiction man or story man. Man is a storytelling animal. Let me give you a sense for what I am talking about by sharing with you a story improvised off the cuff by a little girl named Claire.
Well, once upon a time, I was walking in the jungle, and I stopped. And when I stopped, I just heard two snapping branches. But then I knew I was surrounded with hungry bears and coyotes, and one of the biggest coyotes and bear grabbed me, and I did the double eye poke, and that made them startled. And they let go of me, and then I went as fast as I could until I got to my truck and drove home, and I did, and then when I drove home to my mommy and daddy.
And so you were safe?
Yes.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that.
And the bear and coyote never found me again.
Yeah, isn't that great? As this little video shows us, our children are natural storytellers. All around the world, all across time, our children have played at story by instinct with their skills in storytelling and pretend play, evolving in reliable, predictable developmental stages, exactly like other things like their ability to walk or their ability to talk. And as a little girl like Claire grows into a woman, she will, like all storytelling animals, live her life inside stories. Fiction stories and political narratives and holy scripture and national mythology and TikTok shorts and all the rest of it. Amazingly, when Claire is tired at night, her body will take its rest, but not her brain. What will her brain do? Her brain will stay up half the night telling itself the stories we call dreams. This is all strange. It's all weird. Why? Why did we evolve as storytelling animals? These are Khoisan hunter-gatherers photographed by Life magazine in 1947. This is a famous image. It's one of my favorite images in the world, one of my favorite photographs in the world, and it's simply called The Storyteller. And there's our storyteller at the center of the screen. He's the guy who's got his hands up in the air like he's a conductor. And that's really quite appropriate because he's literally orchestrating all of the thoughts in these people's heads, all of the images, all the feelings in their hearts. He's brought his people together, skin to skin, mind to mind. It's a beautiful illustration of the bonding power of story. He's brought these people into emotional communion with one another and neurological rhythm. We'd be able to demonstrate that today in a lab. So why did we evolve as storytelling animals? It's because we are an intensely social species, and we simply die when our societies decohere. This image is meant to suggest that storytelling is the counterforce to societal fracture, the tendency of things to fall apart. This idea was expressed beautifully by a novelist named John Gardner. He wrote that real art, and he was talking about his own form of art, he was talking about storytelling art. Real art, he wrote, creates the myths a society can live by instead of die by. So far, so good. This is all sounding quite nice. It's wonderful that we are storytelling animals. But as I argued in a more recent book, there's a very dark side to stories. And it's sometimes hard for storytelling animals to notice this because we love stories so much. So yeah, some stories are powerfully centripetal in the sense that they draw us together around a common social center. But other stories are violently centrifugal. They swirl and whirl us around, they're angry, clashing narratives, and they fling us out away from each other and toward the extremes. Let me give you a sense for this by showing you a famous experiment in the psychology of narrative. So again, we're back in the 1940s, and there's these two psychologists named Heider and Simmel, and they create this very short, very crude animated film. You're watching it right now. They have 120 research subjects, and they ask them all the same question. The question's simple. Will you tell us what you saw? After the film is over, will you tell us what you saw? Only 3 of those 120 people gave like a truly reasonable, rational, logical response. What did I see? I saw triangles, circles. They were sliding around on a blank background. That's all I saw. I saw geometry. Everyone else, though, about 98% of them, and this has been replicated since many, many times. We could replicate this very easily in this room if we had the time to do it. 117 out of 120 people are watching Netflix. They're watching stories. What did I see? I saw a little comedy. I saw a little soap opera. I saw a little drama. I saw a little epic. The point of this experiment has nothing to do with how our brains happen to respond to simple animation. The point is that this is what we are all doing all day, every hour as storytelling animals. We are automatically, reflexively trying to impose this meaningful and comforting order of story structure on all the weirdness and wildness of our experience. The problem is that in the real world, as in the psychology lab, we're not always going to see the same story, and that's going to cause problems. I think that we are living now inside a massive, ever-intensifying, real-time Heider-Simmel experiment, where intelligent people look out on the world, take in the same chaotic information, and yet they resolve it into radically different movies. Movies with crisscrossed heroes, crisscrossed villains, totally different morals of the story. More than anything else, I think that it is this tornado of jagged, divisive narratives, usually of us against them, now amplified by AI, amplified by social media, that is driving our species insane. If John Gardner is right, and real story art creates the myths a society lives by, I think it's this dynamic right here on screen that may write the myths that we die by. The question is, what are we to do about it? This is a big, hard problem. Lots and lots of people are working on it. I won't even pretend to have any easy answers to this problem, but in closing, I will leave you with a few humble suggestions. The first is, and this is the hardest one, it's to realize that if we want to build bridges of narrative across our cultural divides, rather than simply blowing up the few bridges we have left, we all have to begin cultivating habits of skepticism toward our own narratives and not just the other side's. we have to allow that none of this that we're seeing on screen here is a them problem. This is an us problem. This is an everyone problem. As storytelling animals, we all have a tendency to get drunk on narrative and then to revel in the good feeling of that drunkenness. Second, these are perilous times, to say the least. But try to remember that Jewish people are living inside the greatest and the oldest story ever told. What could compare to it? What could hold a candle to it? History has swirled you around in nightmarish centrifugal forces. And those forces did scatter you to the edges of the earth, but your stories held you together. To paraphrase a famous poem by William Butler Yeats, the Jewish people have turned and turned in the widening gyre, but thanks to the power of your shared stories, your center held and you did not fall apart. Third, and finally, maybe take some guidance from the story of little Claire. Our heroine is small, she's alone, she's surrounded by mortal dangers on all sides, but she's bold, and she's resourceful, and she's not interested in being a victim. And she fights through danger and darkness toward the love and the protection of her people. So a little girl in a princess dress tells you a tale of happily ever after. And history gives you no reason to believe in that. But if you continue to cleave to your shared values and your shared identity in an ancient and apparently invincible collection of stories, the future can unscroll more like the story told by Claire. One where, if you don't get your happily ever after, at least the wild animals go hungry at the end. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. A real honor and a privilege to be with you. Thank you.